All right, my name is Mr. Haggerty. This is AP Statistics. This particular year, we only have one class, period 8, although we do have 3 groups within the one class, the Group A, the Group B, and the full-time virtual. Goal for today is I want to run through this basic course information sheet, talk a little bit about the syllabus, and talk about some online things that we're going to be doing for this particular class. All right, first on this list, the textbook. Target date is Thursday or Friday for the in-person groups to be getting them. All virtual groups, at the time I'm making this video, I don't think it's been determined how you guys are going to be getting those, but by the time you see this, that would have been, I'm sure, published and widely known knowledge at that particular point. But for the in-person people, you do not need to be bringing it to class unless you're specifically told to do so. You can keep it wherever it is you're going to be doing most of your classwork or homework. You can bring it to class if you want, but it's not necessary. No matter where you are, make sure your textbook gets covered. Okay, as far as notebooks go, notebooks are not going to be collected, checked, or otherwise graded in any way whatsoever at all. Those are your business. Organize your work however you see fit. Based on previous years of teaching this class, a loose leaf binder is probably your best bet. There are a decent number of handouts, whether they are things that I'm going to be handing you in person or stuff you're going to be printing out from the Google Classroom website. If you are going to go with a spiral, I would say to get something with a lot of pockets to keep that stuff organized. Okay, as far as calculators go, we do have a class set of TI-84 plus CEs. So those of you that are in person, on the days you're in class, they will be available for you to use. On the days you're not in class, whether it's your off day, like a Group A person on a Group B day, you're absent from school when you should be here, or you're the full-time virtual, you have to have access to a graphing calculator for this particular class. If you have a TI-83 or 84, any version of either one of those, it will work. I strongly recommend that you get access to the 84 plus CE though. 2 reasons. Number one, it'll match what we have in class. The instructions I will be given will be based on using those. And also they have more or better statistical capabilities than some of the other models. The other models, the other versions will work, but these are a little bit better for AP statistic purposes. If you have a Casio, which there's always a student or two that has one of those, you're on your own to figure that out. I know some stuff about Casios, but if that's the path you're choosing to take, you're just going to have to Google keystrokes in order to figure that stuff out. There are free downloadable virtual calculators and phone apps. There are also ones to pay for. I really don't know a lot about them other than they exist. So if those of you that would like to take advantage of that, you can do that. All right, we got some online components that need to be addressed. Okay, first of all, everything will be running primarily through Google Classroom, which I think is the way it is for all your classes. Not all activities will be directly in Google Classroom, but it will be posted in Google Classroom of this is what you need to accomplish. Okay, the ones that we're going to be using the most of is Edulastic.com and MathXLforSchools.com. Okay, Edulastic.com, many of you have used in other classes in other years. I'm going to go over in a few moments details on how to register for that. The MathXL for Schools, most likely you guys have not used before, and in order to register for that, you need an individual code that we'll address at a later time. We're not going to be using the MathXL for Schools right away. We'll talk about that probably week 2. There's also a website that you need to go register through for College Board. The main reason for this is when it comes time to register for the test itself, it has to be done through there. There are other things that can happen on that website. It's a relatively new thing. Last year was the first year it ran. I saw some of the activities they had, and to be honest, I wasn't all that impressed, and I didn't really use it last year. Supposedly, there are new and better features that we may or may not be incorporating into the class. And I'll go over a couple more details about that in a moment. All right, as far as your grading procedures go, right, what I'm going to be addressing is for marking periods 1 through 3. Marking period 4 is kind of a different animal, so to speak, for AP Stat. Okay, for marking periods 1 through 3, 10% of your marking period grade will come from the quarterly. That's the same as it's been in this school for quite a while now. The other 90% of your grade, we're going to be working under the total point system. All the points you get divided by all the points you could have gotten. Okay, typical values. Your quizzes are typically going to be worth 50 points. Your tests are typically going to be worth 100 points. Now, we're going to be using MathXL and Edulastic for a couple different purposes. If it's just a normal, everyday MathXL or Edulastic assignment, it's going to have a point value somewhere between 10 and 25 points. And it'll be specific whether it's an everyday classwork assignment or it's going to be something that's used as a quiz or a test. If it's a MathXL quiz, 50 points. MathXL test, 100 points, etc. But for the everyday assignments, they're between 10 and 25 points. All right, as far as classwork and homework goes, I'm not going to be checking or collecting or having you submit every single assignment that you do. You can usually expect it's about 1 or 2 per week that I'm going to have you submit. If it's a normal, everyday, just checked classwork or homework assignment, they're going to be worth 5 points apiece. They're never going to be graded right or wrong, graded on completeness and effort, and being on time. If those 3 things are in place, you get the full 5 points. If it's late or it's incomplete or clearly shows poor effort, it'll be something other than a 5 out of 5. Okay, the 4th marking period. Our goal is to be pretty close to getting through all new material by the 4th marking period. Usually it leaks into the first week or so, but for the most part, most of what we're going to be doing as far as new stuff will be done somewhere at the end of the 3rd marking period, beginning of the 4th marking period. So you're not going to have a lot of traditional quizzes and tests for the 4th marking period. It's going to be maybe an assignment or 2, and then whatever quiz or test that we need to wrap up to finish new material. The rest of the time up until the AP exam will be spent reviewing for the AP exam. Traditionally, up to last year, much of the 4th marking period was spent working on a final project. Final projects may or may not be an option due to the circumstances we're learning under. That's yet to be determined, and the 4th marking period is nothing to stress about right now, other than when we're addressing how the course gets graded. The first 3 marking periods are very consistent, very structured. The 4th marking period, we have to wait to see what happens. All right, some more details about quizzes and tests. All right, some of your quizzes or tests will be traditional paper pencil. For those of you that are in-person students, it'll be like it's always been. Take the quiz or test in class and hand it in. Okay, those of you that are the full-time virtuals, you'll be taking them at home and you'll submit them most likely the same way you did last year for your assignments through Google Classroom. The typical format was you took a picture of it and then submitted the picture in Google Classroom. That's most likely how it'll work. All right, for each, well, there's only one, got a typo here. I will have to fix that. This is trig. This is AP Stat. All right, for our AP Stat class, we have 3 groups. We got the A group, the B group, and the full-time virtual. So that means that for each test or assessment you take, there's most likely going to be at least 3 different versions of that particular quiz or that particular test. And then in a situation where there's a makeup necessary, that would take into an account possibly a 4th version for that particular assessment. You can expect, for the most part, that there will be 4 different quizzes or 4 different tests for each assessment that we take, and they're not necessarily going to be the same format. Maybe one group is taking a multiple choice, the other one takes a free response. Maybe it's vice versa. Maybe it's a paper pencil and somebody does it on Edulastic. We'll have to wait to see how that plays out, but I am emphasizing this for the purposes of academic integrity. We're not going to have a situation where one group takes a quiz or a test before the other two groups, and perhaps those answers get passed around to other people, making it unfair. That's not going to happen in here, and if you're caught doing something like that, there are going to be consequences. All right, some basic expectations and emphasizing the importance of deadlines here. On the days you are not present for in-person instruction, you are expected to log into Google Classroom at or before your regular class time to work on whatever assignment, activity, or assessment there is for that particular day. Okay, the not present group is referring to the students who are full-time virtual. Obviously, you're never present. You're not in class. The students who are scheduled to be in class but are absent. So it's like an A day, and you're an A student, but you're home. You're still responsible to log on and do whatever it is needs to get done. And then the students are on their off day. So, for example, it's an A day, you're a Group B student, or it's a B day and you're a Group A student. You need to be logging on at or before our class time, which will be period 8. There's only one class this year. And getting done whatever it is that needs to get done. Right. Everything we do in here has a deadline associated with it. No matter which of the two groups you're in, whether you're in person or whether you're a full-time virtual, everything has a deadline which will be posted on Google Classroom, will be posted in the classroom if appropriate, and verbally said out loud if you're an in-person student. Okay, if you do not meet those deadlines, there are point penalties for it. If for whatever reason you can't meet a deadline, for whatever valid reason you may have, you need to contact me before that deadline. If there's something due on a Monday, you can't contact me Tuesday and say I didn't hand it in because. If there's something happening Monday that prevented you from handing it in, you know Monday. It's not like you all of a sudden found out Tuesday that something happened on Monday. All right, as far as extra help and after-school stuff goes, at the time I'm recording this, I don't know if there's been any official announcement as far as exactly how that's going to work. My intention is that there will be opportunities for after-school extra help, after-school makeups. I will post whatever days I'm available on Google Classroom and within the physical classroom in room 203. As far as the full-time virtual people, at the time I'm recording this, I don't know if any official procedure has been put in place. If you find yourself in a situation where you feel you need some extra help, send me an email, and hopefully by the time you see this video, there's been some kind of procedure put in place that we can deal with. All right, the overall scope and sequence of our class. We don't have a whole lot of wiggle room in our curriculum. This curriculum is not determined by College Board. As with all your AP classes, if you have more than one, that's determined by College Board. So I don't get to pick and choose what topics we cover and what we don't cover. We need to be doing the full textbook. We are going to bounce around a little bit in terms of the order in which we teach these things, which I teach them and you learn them. The basic outline of what chapters we do when are here. There are reasons for why this is chosen. I'm not going to go into the details now, but there's good justification for flipping the order of a couple of those chapters. All right, that wraps up what I wanted to talk about from the course information sheet. The next thing I want to briefly talk about is the syllabus. This gives the breakdown of what topics we expect to be covering in which marking period. These more or less reflect the order that I had said on a previous document with the order of the chapters. There might be one or two things that are mildly out of place, but this is more or less what we're going to be covering in which marking periods. And again, fourth marking period, we should be pretty close to finishing all the 12 chapters. Primary thing is to prepare for the AP test, and then after the AP test, We may or may not be doing a final project. We'll have to wait to see what the educational climate is at that particular time of the year. All right, now on to a couple of things that have to do with our online components. Okay, one of the online programs we're going to be using is edulastic.com. Some of you have used these in other classes. If you already have an Edulastic account, there's a brief outline of the instructions of what to do. If you've never had an Edulastic account before, there's a brief outline of the instructions. Make sure that you're registering for the correct class. I only have one STAC class this year, so make sure that you are registering for that. This should be somewhat of a priority for you. Over our first weekend, there is going to be at least one Edulastic. There might be 2 assignments that need to get covered or need to get done. More details to follow, but emphasizing deadlines, this is something that needs to be taken care of. Your account needs to be up and running before the weekend, or you're not going to get assigned the first thing that you need to accomplish using edulastic.com. All right, next thing I want to talk about, this is through College Board. This isn't anything that's a choice that we have here at Southern. You need to go to College Board's class section and register for this particular class. The instructions are here and on the following page of what keystrokes that you need to be going through in order to get this done. The only additional information you need to know is our class code right here. As I mentioned when we went over the syllabus earlier, there are other things that can happen using this particular website other than registering for the test itself. That's the primary thing that you have to be on here for. They do have other things that we may or may not be taking advantage of. As far as online things, for the most part, we're going to be using the Edulastic and the MathXL. This we may incorporate a little bit later in the year, but you still need to get this taken care of for test registration purposes. All right, the last thing I want to go back to, just to round out the online stuff, the mathxl.com, that is an online program where you're going to get an individual code in order to sign up for it. As a school, we have to pay for that as a per person or a per student license, and it's a little bit more complicated to get it up and running. We're not going to be using it for the first week. We'll get more details about that ironed out. Probably week 2, we'll readdress this as far as something that needs to be taken care of. All right, the only other thing going on for our day 1 is you're going to have an assignment that is some basic data analysis, being able to read and interpret graphs. All the questions are in SAT or ACT format. So it accomplishes 2 important things. Number 1, it goes over some basic graph reading skills that you need to know in order to start AP statistics, and it's also good practice for SATs and ACTs, which if you're a non-senior, you'll definitely be taking one of those in the near future or in the future. And if you're a senior, most likely you're looking at maybe one more time in an SAT or an ACT. I do not recall exactly when that is due. It is posted in Google Classroom as far as when that's going to be collected. So that is it for day 1 as far as an introduction of what you need to know to get rolling with the class.